right, Coach O'Rourke, thanks for coming on the Coaches Podcast. Glad to have you.
Thanks for inviting me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, so I just want to go over your resume as a coach a little bit. I mean, you were an assistant coach over for Hanover for a bunch of years, and now you've taken over for like the past 20 years or so and been the head coach. You've had 2 championships as an assistant, now 5 as the head coach, and just looking to continue to build and move forward with that. Your team this season overall, what are your main thoughts on the team?
We have an exciting team. Last year we weren't happy with the way things ended, but we have a good group of solid seniors, supporting cast, and we're developing every year as a new team, and we're starting to work on our deficiencies. We spend most of the season trying to figure out, the early part of the season, where are our vulnerabilities, what do we need to work on. And it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. The goals of never change. We're always trying to be successful towards the end of the season, and so the next 8 weeks we'll be trying to shore up where we feel we need to get better at.
With that in mind for improvement, is there more of a focus on just like getting the team better and working towards that ultimate goal in the playoffs and being prepared to play your best basketball in February rather than, running up the score on teams right now?
Yeah, no, we've always had a developmental philosophy and get better as the season goes on. We know that it takes a team to win the championship, and so the scores are irrelevant. It's about getting better and making sure that we have a philosophy that the team is only as good as its weakest link, and so we need to play kids, have everyone on the same page, and at the end, as you're mentioning, we want to be playing our best basketball come March.
Yeah. Do you ever find yourself in situations where you have to make those tough decisions where you're trying to like play really well now and win as many games as possible now and trying to get the best seed you can in the tournament, but also struggle with trying to move as many people in and getting them used to playing? Like, how do you balance all that? Because that's a tough decision to make as a coach.
Yeah. Well, first of all, we always have held the philosophy you can't win a championship in December or January, and it really is about getting better throughout the season. Each team poses a different challenge, and so we have to continue to focus on areas of our weaknesses. And the seed, while you hope to have 2 home games and before in the preliminary and quarterfinal round, ultimately the seed is not always relevant, because if you're the best team, you have to win the games. Now, with that being said, completely understand that the higher the seed in general, it's a easier road to the championship.
Yeah.
But that's not always true, because at the end of the day, you just don't know who you match up against. Some teams better than others, and so we've had years where we've been a high seed and our road has been very challenging because of the team we're playing, which we have no control over where those other teams end up, and so those teams make it more challenging. So I don't really worry as much about the seed. I really put our focus and efforts on making sure that our team is getting better every day, and let the chips fall where they may.
As a coach, have you ever encountered a situation where you've had to seriously think about in the last week of the season where you have some of the lower teams are kind of locked into the bracket and where you guys are at is still kind of not certain, so you have to pick and choose your bracket and you can decide to win out and get a certain seed, but you also might have a tougher road versus just the luck of the draw? You might have an easier path if you actually got, maybe a 4 seed instead of a 2 seed and decided to maybe not play as hard to rest some players in those games in order to end up like that, or has that never happened?
The situation has happened, but I've never rested players or not tried to win. So, yes, it's crossed your mind, like, we'd be better suited here and there, but as a coach, we're trying to win every game and try to be as successful in every game. So
Yeah, I also think it's important to harness momentum towards the end of the year going into the playoffs. Like February is when you want to be playing your best basketball.
Yeah, and a few years ago, I think it was 2019, we were the number one seed, and Kearsarge ended up the number 8 seed, and they came in, and I think it was a tied game with 2 minutes left. So there's always going to be challenges throughout the playoffs, and you're going to need. I always say you got to have talent, and you also have to have a little luck along the way to win a championship.
How do you think your philosophy as a coach is different than other coaches?
I don't know every other coach's philosophy enough to really say, but I know that our philosophy has served our program well. We have a way of going through the season in December and January. Right now, we're focusing on some skill development. We identify what each girl needs to do to get better, and we really focus on trying to help that. And we're starting that right now. As a team, we're also identifying our deficiencies, and we are putting together about a 6-week plan as to what do we need to do to shore up those and give our team the best opportunity to be successful down the stretch.
How do you construct something like that in a way that players can understand to the best of their ability?
I think a lot of these girls, most of the girls we've coached since fourth grade through our developmental program, so we've always had that philosophy, and they're used to that, and it really is about team and what can we do to be successful as a team and program. And so we've been fortunate having all that buy-in from all the kids.
Can you give us a little bit of overview of your season right now? You're 5-2, and just kind of some of the games and stuff that's occurred over the season that you've seen with your group.
Yeah, the season so far that we started off with 5 wins, and the scoreboard wasn't impressive if you look at some of our offensive output, but we've put in some different things where we're putting different combinations in the early part of December, early January. We tend to go 10-11 deep and give everyone an opportunity to play, trying to understand where each kid fits in, what are their strengths, what do we have to work on to improve. And so sometimes we get caught up in some combinations. In Lebanon, we're I think ahead by 12 or 14 points in the first quarter or first half. Made some substitutions, and next thing you know, by halftime it was a 2-point game. But again, it's December, and I'm trying to learn. Our coaching staff is trying to learn about who we are as a team and what do we have to do to improve. Those 5 wins were solid wins. Then we ran in, played at Bedford last Saturday. Bedford is arguably the top team in the state. They're skilled at every position. They have a very deep bench. They play well together, high basketball IQ, and so that was going to be a tough challenge for us. I thought we competed well. We struggled to score offensively, only scoring 17 points, but our defensive efforts, our ability to compete against them was good. We were mismatched significantly in the front line, but our kids battled all night, and Kevin's got a great program, and they're, like I said, are the best team in the state in my eyes. And then Tuesday night, Bo came in very confident. They took it to us early. I don't think we were completely expecting that, but kudos to Bo. They always play us hard. They have a new coach, and she did a wonderful job preparing them, and they just played a very good game and hit some really good shots. And we got it down to a 3-point lead in the fourth quarter, but kudos to them. They hit foul shots towards the end and sealed the victory.
Two things that I've heard before from coaches are that teams tend to at times take on their coach's personality in certain ways, whether that be, their coach pushes them to work super, super hard and give a lot and care a lot. They kind of inherit that, but I've also heard, the opposite can be true. If their coach doesn't really care as much, they don't care as much. So you have that. And then the other thing that I've also heard is coaches adapt their style to fit whatever their the group of players they have right now is, so that they can be the most successful. Can you speak a little bit on both things?
Yeah. So, I actually 100% agree. 30 years ago when I was getting into this, I was at a coaches conference And one of the lines that always stuck with me is that your team will be a reflection of you. And so I've always had that as my philosophy. I think we have always been a competitive team. We want to compete every possession, and I want our kids to be confident. And at the same time, we really emphasize calm, composure under duress. And, we talked about, okay, we've lost 2 games, and adversity's part of basketball, it's a part of life. And when adversity strikes, there's 2 things you can do. You can start pointing fingers, blaming, and accusing, and basically unravel as a team, or you can use it as an opportunity to come together and face adversity and get better. And so we talked a lot over the last few days that we're in a tough stretch of our schedule. It's going to, be challenging. Tonight we have Concord Christian on the road, which is going to be another strong challenge for us. And, we're going into it with the mindset that we're ready to play, and we know they're good, and we'll see what happens.
Speaking a little bit about tonight's game, Concord Christian, that's a team who I got to watch once last year in their Final Four game against Stevens. I mean, they've played really strong. They're not always the tallest team, but they're very, very fast. How do you adapt the play for that style?
Yeah, it's not only quickness. I think they have a very high basketball IQ. They play well together. They like each other. And so it's going to be a challenge. I mean, because they can score out of any of their positions, which is not true about a lot of teams where you can focus on 1 or 2, 3 kids. It's going to, as we talked about, it's going to take a full team effort tonight because we gotta, they're going to penetrate, but if we close the gap off, they can kick out, they can shoot. So, and as you mentioned, they're very fast and they love the transition game. So we're going to have, be working on transition defense. So it's going to be a good test. But this is also why we go every year to New York for our holiday tournament. We play teams that are schools of 2,000-3,000, and we play a team that over in New York that I think really mirrored Concord Christian, and some of the other teams that love to fast break and really get back and try to focus on that. So, and that's what I meant earlier is every game throughout the year poses a new challenge, and tonight will be the new challenge of making sure you get back and also closing the gaps on drives as well as recovering quickly and putting a hand up and closing out on the shooters.
Yeah, so what do you think the biggest challenges have been for your team thus far this season?
I would say playing 32 minutes. We have had, like in New York, for instance, we played the 24th ranked team in the state that I think mirrored Concord Christian, except they had a 6'3" shooting guard. We played them deep into the third quarter with 3 minutes to go. We're up by 5. We were playing extremely well. We were getting great ball movement. We were rebounding well. We were getting back, not allowing transition baskets. And then they hit us in a 3-minute stretch on a 14-0 run. So going to the fourth, we're down by 9. And, battle. And I think we lost by 12. And that's been sort of, I think, one thing we've noticed in all of our games, whether we've won them or not, is focusing and playing full 32 minutes. And so that's what we've been trying to get better at.
How have you, as a coach and the team as a whole, tried to address some of the challenges that you faced throughout the season?
With playing 32 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it really comes down to focus. And we try to also emphasize not looking at the scoreboard and play in the moment. It's really about the next play. And we have to play that possession. And we started talking about, killing the momentum and really trying to get successive defensive stops in a row. And, I think when we get up by a large margin, we tend to lose focus, or if we're ahead. So it's really trying to, in practice, focusing on drills, focusing on the moment, and trying to get 5 girls to stay on the same page. Because what's also been happening is we'll have 3 or 4 girls on the same page, and then that 1 or 2 girls loses focus, the drive comes, the gap coverage doesn't come, and they score. And I think to some of that extent happened against Bo the other night.
What do you think on the other end is some of your biggest strengths of your team overall this season?
I think our senior leadership and captain leadership has been phenomenal. I think we're an athletic team. We're competitive. We have kids that can shoot the ball, and I think right now, I like the balance of our team. I like the athleticism of our team and our competitiveness, and we're just trying to now take this group and get them to the next level.
Yeah, for sure. What are some main points that you would want viewers to know about your team overall, just the way that you play the game and everything?
I think we, on offense, we try to share the ball. We're trying to continue to get ball movement, player movement, and try to get the highest quality shot we can. We're patient, calmness under duress, and I think our biggest strength is every night we're going to compete, and every night we're going to come into each game. We know that a lot of teams, because of our success, give us their A game every night, and so we can't take any team lightly. We have to come into every game understanding that they're going to play us hard, and we have to match their intensity, and oftentimes try to exceed their intensity for us to be successful.
What are some of the other teams in Division Two that you look at as like some real big threats for the championship as you're going to try and compete against them eventually in the playoffs?
Yeah, so I think obviously Concord Christian is shown that they're right now probably the top team, but Laconia and Pembroke are very two highly skilled teams.
Yeah.
Bo obviously has been there. They have a winning pedigree over the last few years. They're also good, and then you get into Milford. Kennett has a winning tradition. So there are a lot of teams. Oyster River actually is undefeated as well. So there are just a lot of teams that have a shot at this, and it's going to really come down to who hits the winning stride. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles are a great example of great 11-0, in the very first part of the season, and now have got into some tough times losing. So it really is building the momentum over the course of the season and preparing for the playoffs.
I've heard different philosophies on what I'm about to ask you, but when you're trying to play against your opponents, I've heard sometimes you got to adapt your own style of play in order to fit that opponent. But I've also heard before that you try and continue to play your game regardless of who you're playing, and you're not going to try and fold just based off of who you're going up against.
Yeah, I think there's truth in both of those, but I would, for us, we try to play our style, and because those are our strengths, but at the same time, we can't completely ignore now. Obviously, if there's a huge talent disparity in teams, you don't really have to adapt anything. But I think as you start to come against some of the top teams, you really have to scrutinize what do we do well, what do they do well, what don't we do well, what don't they do well, and try to maximize opportunities in which we do well, and at the same time try to focus on what they don't do well, and can we attack those vulnerabilities to our advantage.
As a coach, what are your favorite parts about coaching, and just your favorite parts about leading a group like this and going through a lot of these challenges, tough times, going to travel and compete against teams?
I think, why I think what most of us are in coaching is we enjoy being around teenagers and helping them basically with life lessons. I mean, that's really, we're educators at the end of the day.
Yeah,
and we're trying to take, in my case, young women and help them mold into leaders of the future. From a basketball point of view, it's always the challenge of taking a group of 11 individuals and helping them buy into the team concept, buy into that the strength of all of us collectively together is better than any individual part. And I think trying to mold them into this journey that we're on and trying to, at the end of the day or end of the year, be the best version of ourselves is the challenge basketball-wise.
All right. Do you have anything that you'd like to add on for this year's team or any of the teams that you've coached?
No, I think as we talked about is this team, we've created a tradition at Hanover, and this team's job is to make their statement and their chapter in the storied book of Hanover basketball, and it's their opportunity to leave their mark, and so that's what we're trying to do, and look forward to the challenge in the coming weeks ahead.
Yeah. Thanks, Coach. Good luck.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
it.